This is Dr. Keith with another quick Wellness News Nugget. Hope you're doing good out there. Today is December the 3rd, 2019. I've been away from Nuggets for a couple of weeks there. My schedule has had me a bit busy. And so this is an article I pulled last week, but I haven't had a chance to get to it and give my commentary on it. Again, I am a naturopathic doctor, if you haven't listened before. And what the Quick Wellness News Nugget is where I take an article that has come out within the last 7 days. Usually, sometimes I go a little bit beyond that if I think it's a very important topic, and I give my commentary on it. Normally 5 to 7 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit shorter. And again, this is a fascinating article, and I thought it was interesting. It was found at Newsweek.com, and it's entitled Rising Death Rates Among White Americans Linked to Perceived Threat to Their Dominant Social Status. Study shows. Now, this deals with emotional health, emotional wellness. And this is something that, as a naturopath, we look at the mental, the physical, the spiritual, and emotional. All are aspects of someone being truly healthy or having good health. And this is a very fascinating article I found. The article says that, again, it was published on the 25th. That day, I put it to in my archives, or I set it aside to talk about it, but I didn't get a chance until now to get to it and talk about it. It says a new public health study released by University of Toronto, researchers found that rising mortality in white Americans is partly due to perception that they are losing social status. It says the paper titled Growing Sense of Social Status Threat and Concomitant Death of Despair Among Whites highlights this population health phenomenon that has been unfolding for the past 2 decades. It says mortality rates seldom rise unless a society is subjected to something disastrous like a major economic crisis, an infectious disease epidemic, or war. But there has been an increase, the article says, in working age mortality rate for just one group in the United States since 1999, and that's non-Hispanic whites. So for 1999, that's roughly roughly 19 years, almost 2 decades, almost 20 years. And the article goes on to point out in this study they found that the lead author of the study said that this is a startling finding. He's an associate professor of epidemiology at the Dallas Lana School of Public Health. He went on to say that this would be the first time that a widespread population health phenomenon cannot be explained by social or economic status disadvantage, and instead has been driven by a perceived threat to status. So basically what he's saying is that they've seen people's lives shorten because of social economic status, people being deprived because of their race or religion or whatever the case might be, in a systematic way. And ultimately it affects the emotional and mental health and ultimately the physical health, and thus it can shorten life. Here they're saying, based upon this study, what they're calling a perceived threat to status of white Americans, non-Hispanic whites in America. The article quotes the lead author of the study where he says, quote, the anxiety of whites is coming from a misperception that their dominant status in society is being threatened, which is manifesting in multiple forms of psychological and physiological stress. And the article says that this stress has resulted in what researchers call deaths of despair. It says while mortality rates trend higher for whites, the increased causes of death have been due to alcohol consumption, opioid use, opioid overdose, and suicides. According to the study, rising chronic diseases, which includes hypertension and obesity, also contribute to this trend. So basically, it appears that they're saying that because of this misperception of white Americans losing their dominant role in society, many of them are turning to drugs, drinking more alcohol because they're stressed out. And as a result, this is contributing to a decline in their health, also and increased rates of hypertension and obesity. It says contribute to this trend. It says further, quoting the author's, the study's lead author, says, quote, status is a major predictor of health, so our team hypothesized that it was a perception among whites that blacks were economically catching up to them, when in fact income inequality and other economic factors continue to affect blacks more unfavorably. So basically, you're saying that just the threat uh, of black people essentially coming to the same or gaining in the financial status, economic status, seems to have some, according to the study, some of our white Americans uh, stressed out. The article goes on to say during the presidential election in 2016, Donald Trump's campaign promoted certain things here and there, and it talks about how they believe that he stoked some of the fears of white Americans concerned about increased racial diversity within the country and globalization outside of the country. The article goes on to say, citing the study's lead author, quote, with the very real rise in economic instability over the last several decades, we'd expect mortality rates to rise in the most socioeconomically disadvantaged groups of all races. He says, but this is not the case. Instead, we're seeing a striking reversal among working age whites, which seems to be driven principally by anxiety among whites about losing social status to blacks, even in the absence of evidence, which is a newly identified population health phenomenon that requires further research, she added. So basically, there's a perception that based upon this study from the University of Toronto, that the perception of white Americans are concerned that they're losing status to blacks, and as a result, they're stressing out to the extent that they're having health issues, even leading to death. It says, the article finishes up by saying, while the most negative outcomes in the paper were concentrated in white Americans with high school degrees or less, signs of stress and elevated anxiety leading to a rise in mortality was reported through every level of education. Wow, I find this to be a fascinating article. That if this study is correct, and I haven't seen anything to indicate that it isn't, it's amazing that that type of mentality would still exist. This is America. We should have every race, religion, whatever the case might be, should be treated fairly, should be treated equally. Of course, no, that's not the case, but it's amazing to me that this study is indicating that that the numbers are showing that it's the first time they've ever seen anything like this, and the white Americans are the only broad group that are experiencing such a thing. It's astonishing. So again, this has been a quick Wellness News Nugget. I'm Dr. Keith Henry. Until next time, take care and God bless.